Hello everyone, this is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America, and today it is my pleasure to release our New to Mac class free for all of you out there to enjoy. Now, for those of you who didn't know, this class was originally a premium class. We charged $10 for it, and people could download it to their computers. Well, it's been out for about 10 months now, and as of the date that we're recording this segment, Apple is about to release their new operating system. So I thought this is a great point to show our fans how much we love them and give them this class free to enjoy. Now, because the class is 2 hours long, I would encourage you, if you feel like your brain has just hit that point where it cannot absorb anymore, feel free to hit the pause button and come back and join us another time. Also, to help you retain as much information as possible, we have created a handy PDF guide that you can download. You'll find a link to that in the description of this video. Also, for those of you out there who do not speak English as your first language, or those of you, frankly, out there who just prefer to have subtitles, I am going to have this entire class subtitled. So please understand, it takes me a week to be able to do that. So if you happen to be one of the people who catches this class right after it comes out, just wait a week and it should be there for you. The way that you enable it is you're going to click on a button at the bottom part of this video that says CC, it's the closed captioning button, and then from there you can select your language preferences and turn it on or off. Finally, I want to say that because this class that you're about to see was recorded 10 months ago, there are a couple of product recommendations that I had recommended then that I don't so much recommend anymore. That's the real reason why you want to get the PDF guide, because the PDF guide has the accurate information. And on that topic, I just want to say in general, if any of you out there need help with getting the right electronics, because when you go to a big box store, you don't know how much training that person actually has. You can always go to our website and you will find my little list of recommendations. Just go to techtalkamerica.com, and then when you get there, click on the little tab that says Product Recommendations. Finally, before we go, I just want to say that we really do value your feedback. So please, if you don't mind, take a moment when this class is over and leave us a comment in the section below. Hit the like button. The other thing you can do if you want is you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that way you can find out when we do come out with new classes. I believe we have actually just crossed 500 videos. Now, some of those videos have been taken offline over the years because they were just outdated, but 500 pieces of content is a lot of content to produce. So thank you all who have been our loyal fans over the years. Here it is, without any further ado, New to Mac, coming up next on techtalkamerica.com. All right, folks, so the first part that we're going to be going through today is I want to show you how to set up your preferences for Finder. Finder is sort of the equivalent to what was like My Computer back in the Windows days, at least back in like the Windows XP days. I have to admit, I don't really have much need for PCs anymore. I've found the light, and hopefully a few of you have as well. And you may feel that by the end of this class. So let's go through it. All right, so Finder is where all of your stuff lives. It's the most important place. You're going to hear me reference it a million times today, so you do need to know this. Now, here's the thing. Finder is this little Happy Mac dude here at the bottom left corner of my screen. However, it does say, if you look here at the top left, Finder. It always says at the top left the name of the application that you are currently in at that moment. The fact that it says Finder just means that I'm clicked here on the desktop. The desktop is the main screen when you boot up your computer. Hopefully you know that. So don't think that when I say go to Finder, I don't mean this, okay? Finder is down here at the bottom left. So what we're going to do is to make sure that we're all on the same page, I want to get us all in the same settings. So let's go here to where it says Finder at the top left. Now, one of the things you're going to find about the Mac is that they put a lot of thought into everything. And the great part about this is usually you never even notice this. But every application works similarly as far as how you go to alter it, all that good stuff. Windows, not so much. So we're going to go into Finder and we're going to go to Preferences. With pretty much every app on the Mac, the Preferences is always right here. When you're in the app, it will say the name of it at the top left. When you click on it, Preferences is right there. So let's go into that real quick. Now we have these four little tabs that you see here at the top left corner of my screen. We have General, Tags, Sidebar, and Advanced. One of the parts that I always usually go through explaining about how these classes work is I very specifically skip over things. It is a deliberate process done on my part to make sure that your brain can absorb as much as it can possibly absorb. Because let's face it, by the end of 2 hours, that alone, you're going to probably, feel a little bit mind blown. So we're going to go over the most important stuff. I am skipping over stuff, but it's stuff that I don't feel is really important for everyone out there to know. We're going over the important stuff. So, general, okay? This is basically what I tend to recommend. So you'll notice I have unchecked hard disks. That is, by the way, if I check it, if you see here at the top right, it now says Macintosh HD. By just clicking that, it's hiding it. It's not really important to have it right there. Then we have external disks, CDs, DVDs, and iPods and connected servers all checked. Most of those you will probably not need, except for maybe external disks, but I think it's safe to have them there just in case you ever do need them. They're turned on. Next one we have here is New Finder window shows. Now by default, that is set to all my files. Funny thing about that. Did you ever notice that when your computer is set to show all files, it's always that one you just don't want first? I think you all know what I'm talking about, Mr. I have my documents folder called Taxes 2008. Anyways, I wouldn't do that because inevitably it's that one thing you don't really want to show up on your computer. I work with a few people. I know what people have on their computers. So, New Finder window opens. I would recommend either downloads. You could do the documents folder, desktop, whatever you want, but I would change it away from all my files. I'm just saying. Next one we're going here to is sidebar. And for this, I would just like to ask you to mirror what I've got going on here. So you can see here, once again, we have unchecked, for some strange reason, all my files. We're going to keep AirDrop. We're going to keep applications, downloads. We're going to keep the home folder. Now, the home folder you'll see is that little icon that you see there with the house. It's not going to say Tech Talk America on yours. That is where your stuff lives, and so it should have your name on it. Just check that. The next three we can check, which is iCloud Drive, Desktop, and Documents. We can skip the next three, skip the next one after that, and we're going to check hard disks and external disks. One of those things where, once again, you may not always need it, but it's there if you ever do. And I'm not going to check CDs, DVDs, and iPods or recent tags. Finally, we're going to go here under Advanced. This is what I would tend to recommend to everyone. Show warning before changing an extension. We're going to check show warning before emptying the trash. Check remove items from the trash after 30 days, and we're going to check keep folders on top when sorting by name. Also, you'll notice there when it says when performing a search, hit search this Mac. That's, I believe, the default on everyone's computers anyway. So now that we've got that all set, now we're ready to actually talk about what is Finder. So let's go into it. Once again, happy little Mac icon here at the bottom left. So when I click on that, that gives me access to all of my stuff. So for example, if I go here under Applications, this would be every single application. Some of you have called this programs, especially if you're coming over from the Windows world. On the Mac, we call it applications or apps as a shortcut, abbreviation rather. So you can see some of my apps here. You will not have the same apps, so don't worry if yours does not look the same. And below it, you'll see we have, for example, desktop, we have downloads, okay, all these things that we had just told in Finder Preferences that we want to be there. Next thing we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about the viewing options for any given window that you have open. So let's go, for example, to Applications. So you'll notice that when I'm clicked here on this option here, there are these nice big icons. It's really easy for me to go through and find what I want. But then when I go to something like my downloads, it's this view here. How do you set those? Well, the way you're going to set them is it's based on where you are at the time. So if I want to change the way my Applications folder works, I'm going to go here into Applications. And right here at the top, sort of towards the center, we have these four options here. Now this first one right here is what you see. This is the icon view. So they're nice, these big icons. Little trick for you, by the way, if you ever want to make those icons larger or smaller, if you look down here at the bottom right corner, we have a little slide bar. So if I slide it to the left, they're really teeny tiny. If I move them to the right, they get to be a little chunkier, chunky icons. Next one we have here is a list view. A list view I tend to find is really nice for sometimes the documents folder. There's a couple other options that might be better, but that is one option there. The next one we have here is columns view. This one, for those of you who have a lot of folders, and then you have files in those folders, and other folders, and there's all sorts of folders on top of folders, this is the best view because you can very easily navigate through this. So if I click, for example, on this folder, it shows me what's in that folder. Very easy. The next one we have here, though, is cover flow. And CoverFlow is this right here. So it's sort of a split between two. So you have a line that's right here in the middle. You have, and then as you click on the different items, it's going to give you like a little preview of what it is. At this point, I would like to give you a little quick tip. If you ever want to very quickly open pretty much any file, for example, a song, a video, a photo, document, whatever. Anything, if you just click on it once, so like for example, this photo right here, see how it's highlighted? If I just simply tap the space bar, that is called quick preview mode. So it'll very quickly give you a way to just sort through files, and you can, if, let's say you have 3 different versions of a document, you can very quickly figure out which one is which without having to actually open it. So that's that little trick there. Next thing I want to do is talk a little bit about this. Let's go back and let me just set this up correctly. I'm going to talk about this little puppy down here. This at the bottom of your screen, that is called the dock. And the dock contains icons. Those are apps that you have a quick shortcut to. And you can completely customize your dock however you like it. And one thing you should know is that you can add or remove items. So let's go over how to do that. So let's say, you know what, I don't really do a lot of spreadsheet documents, so I'm going to remove numbers. That's this little app right here, comes with the Mac. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it off the screen. I'm clicking and dragging, and it's gone. Now, one thing I always like to go over is how to get it back, because one of the questions I tend to get a lot from folks that I'm working with who are very new to this stuff is they think that they accidentally remove an icon from the dock. They think that they've deleted it. They haven't. They just have removed the shortcut. I'm going to show you how to get it back. All we have to do is go to where that application lives and drag it and drop it back. Very, very simple. So where does everything live? It lives in Finder. So let's go back to Finder, go back to Applications, and now what did we remove? Numbers. Here's another little trick. If you are in, let's say applications like this and you want to just very quickly get to the correct letter, just hit that letter on the keyboard. So I'm going to hit N and it jumps down to Notes, and right next to Notes we have Numbers. So now I'm going to drag and drop that back down here into the dock and it stays there. You'll also notice that if I click and drag it to a different part, I can get it to stick there. So you can move your icons around however you like. So that is a little bit about the dock. Another thing I want to show you is how to increase or decrease the size of the dock. Some people like larger icons, some people like smaller icons. So let's go over how to do that. If you look here on the right, okay, bottom right, you'll see there's this really thin, it might be a little hard to see, this thin black vertical line. And if you put your cursor on it, it turns into those 2 little arrows. And at this point, if I drag down, you'll see the icons get smaller. The whole dock shrinks. If I pull up, it gets larger. That's the largest that I can go with how many icons that I have. If I removed a few icons, it would be a little bit bigger. So that is that. Next thing we're going to talk about is something that you'll see actually right here. So if you look here at the right-hand side of the dock, now not all of you are going to have this, but these are actually shortcuts to my Documents and Downloads folder. That is what we refer to as a stack. And it's just a different way to get to the same place. So if I go to my Documents folder a lot, this might be a good idea. It saves the step from having to go to Finder and then click on Documents. So if I click on this, you can see it kind of fans up like that. The way you make that happen in the first place, let me just recreate it for you. We're going to go once again to where it lives, and we're going to drag it and drop it. Now, because the Documents in the Downloads folder actually live in that home folder. Remember that house icon that we set up in Finder Preferences? Well, now we're going to actually need to go there. So we're going to go here into the home folder. Yours won't look necessarily exactly like that. And what we're going to do is take the Downloads folder. Is that the one that we removed? Or nope, we removed Documents, sorry. And my documents are in iCloud Drive. So let's take that there, Documents, and we're going to just drag it and drop it right back down into the dock. So drag and drop, very simple concept. That's how you can add or remove any items to your dock, whether they're folders in the form of a stack or applications for the left-hand side. The next part we're going to talk about are these little dots that you see here at the top left of my screen, these little red, yellow, and green dots. Now, you're going to see those with pretty much every application, pretty much every window on the Mac, and I want to go over what they mean. So the red one is a little bit confusing because it used to be very consistent, and now it's not always the case. So the red dot is actually close. So you'll notice if I close this Safari window, notice it still says Safari at the top left corner. Because Safari is still running, we have only closed the window, not quit the application. So I want to be clear, there is a difference between closing and quitting. So if I want to open another Safari window, I could basically go here to File, I can go to New Window, and it will open a new Safari window. So that red dot usually means close. There is an exception to the rule, which is Photos. There are a few other applications as well, but Photos is the big one. If you hit the red dot in Photos, it is actually quit. That's important for you all to know, because if you're doing anything with like syncing photos from your camera, okay, you don't want to close because you're going to end up quitting in the case of Photos. So just minimize, which is the next one. So this little amber yellow dot, that is minimize. So when we click on it, it's going to kind of genie down there into your dock, so that if you want to bring it back, you just click down here. Notice it's now here at the bottom right next to the trash can. We're going to click on that and it comes right back, just like that. The green dot here is to go into full screen mode, but it is also a second thing as well. So if I click on this, you'll see everything else kind of melts away. The only thing we have here is now Safari. I'd like to also tell you at this point how to get out of this if you need to, so that you're not, panicking. So the way to get out of full screen mode, there can be two different ways. I'm going to teach you both of them because they don't always work. One doesn't always work. So the easy way is to simply tap the escape key on your keyboard, which in this case will work. Okay, so you can see it kind of moves back down to the normal size. The other way that does work all the time is if you just simply put your cursor at the top of the screen, very, very top. You'll see the top menu bar comes down, and now we can click the green dot again, and the same thing happens. So that's what those little dots do. Now you know how just a moment ago I told you that the green dot also does the second thing? I'd like to show you what that does now too. Now this is only in the more recent operating systems for the Mac, but right now I have open two different applications. I have Reminders and I have my Calendar, which are two apps that I would be very likely running at the same time and maybe need to move things from one to the other. So what I can do is to really maximize my usage of my screen. What I can do is I can press and hold on that green dot, and now you'll see that it kind of lights up a side of the screen. If I drag to the right, it highlights the right. If I drag it to the left, it just highlights the left. So what it's basically telling me is I'm going to run this in half screen mode, okay? So I'm going to let go, and now it's clinging to the left-hand side of the screen. Now I can choose a different app to run on the right-hand side. So now I'm going to click here on Reminders. So right now they're running 50-50. Now if I want to adjust it so that maybe I have a little bit more space with the Calendar and less with the Reminders app, what I can do is I can grab that black vertical bar and we're going to drag it to the right. Now this isn't going to work for every single app out there, but for most of them it will, and you can kind of resize it however much you want. To a certain extent, it's going to snap back and forth, but that's how you do that, which is a great feature that Apple in absolutely no way totally ripped off from Microsoft. Yeah, they stole that one. All right, so let's get out of that. Let's quit. Okay, let's move on to the next thing we have here, which is Trash. So Trash, you will see, is the last icon always on your dock here at the bottom right. If you click on it, the way you empty it is, you'll notice here it's grayed out right now because I have nothing there, but if I put my cursor right here, you'll see there is an empty button right there. So you click that, you empty the trash, it's gone. I would also at this point like to give you a very useful hotkey. What is a hotkey? A hotkey is basically a combination of keys that you're going to press on your keyboard that's going to do something. For example, copy and paste is a very well-known hotkey. A lot of the different ones that they have on a Windows computer are very, very similar on a Mac. For example, copy on a PC is Control-C, paste is Control-V. Well, on a Mac, it's the exact same thing, except it's never the Control key, it's always Command. So Command-C is copy, Command-V is paste. Now to help you remember the most important hotkeys, not all of them, just the important ones, we have included a one-page PDF guide in that PDF for all of you. That's going to be an example of a page that you might want to consider printing out. So here I've created very quickly a folder on my desktop. I'd like to give you the hotkey to very quickly delete a file or a folder. If you are clicked on it, you'll notice how it's highlighted right here, Command Delete. boom, sends it straight to the trash. Very useful trick when you're doing a little digital spring cleaning, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time here on system preferences. Now this is going to be a bit of a big section because once again, I feel like it's important for a lot of you to know several of these, so let's go into it. So the way you get into system preferences is by clicking on this Apple icon that you see here at the top left corner. We're going to be talking more about the Apple menu in a little bit, but for now we're going to focus on the second item down, which is system preferences. So in system preferences, we're going to go through these and I'm just going to give you what I tend to recommend to a lot of people. First one is here under General, okay? And the only thing I would really recommend that you consider checking out here are this item right here, which is Show Scroll Bars. The default is set to automatically based on mouse or trackpad. Some people like that. I do personally like that. Some people, however, prefer always. What this basically means is if I go on a website, like let's say Tech Talk America, you'll notice there is no scroll bar. Okay. The reason why is that now the Mac is using multi-touch gestures. So for example, on a laptop, you use two fingers and you just swipe up and down with your fingers, and that's how you scroll. And you'll notice that when I do that, if you look here on the right-hand side of the window, the scroll bar does actually appear, but then when I let go, it disappears. So that's basically what that is going on there. So if you like having a scroll bar all the time, this is where you're going to go to set that. So you'd set that to always. Next one here I want to just mention briefly is default web browser. Now, this item is really difficult for me to talk about because this constantly changes, and I'm sure people get upset about that. There are typically two web browsers that I tend to recommend over the others. I only recommend either Safari or Google Chrome. Now, in the past, I've always said Chrome, or most recent past, I've always said Chrome is the way to go. I have to say that Safari has gotten better. And I would say either of those at this point, you are good. In fact, you might want to consider giving Safari a shot if you haven't tried it before, because they are improving it. They're adding new features. I like them. They're good. So check that out. And now what we're going to do is we are going to hit this little icon you see here at the top. That's to go back to all preferences. And the next one we're going to talk about briefly is desktop and screensaver. So here at the top we have two different tabs. We have desktop and screensaver. There really is no need for a screensaver anymore. Those were important back in the days of CRT monitors, you know, those big, fat, chunky ones. Not an issue anymore. So I would say don't even worry about a screensaver. Just let your computer go to sleep instead, and we'll show you that when we start to talk about energy saver options. So let's focus here on desktop. So you'll see here that Apple does give you a variety of different, very high quality images. Okay, you can see them all right there. They're great. You can check them out. You can just click on them and you'll see that instantly the background there updates. Okay, some very beautiful photography. One thing you might want to check out is this option down here, which is change picture, and then you can set how frequent. So it's basically going to make it a little bit like a slideshow. Keeps your desktop nice and fresh. Now, if you want to check out one of my favorite apps for the Mac, there is a phenomenal app, and again, I don't have a relationship with this company, but it's called Magic Window. And specifically, I recommend the 4K version, especially those of you who are on an iMac or MacBook Pro or MacBook. And they're probably about to kill off the MacBook Air as I'm recording this video, so basically everyone. But it's a really great app for the Mac, and it basically turns your desktop background into time-lapse photography. Now, we have a whole class on Magic Window. It's a very short class, more of a demo. But if you want to check that out, we'll give you a link to it in the PDF notes. Otherwise, if you want, you can use this change picture option. I would just recommend don't do it any less than every 15 minutes. It's just really kind of unnecessary. You're not going to appreciate it. And the more frequent that you have it changed, that does use a little bit of memory. So, you know, keep it at 15 minutes or more. All right, let's keep it. We're going to actually not use that. I want this video to look consistent, so we're going to keep it off. Also, you'll notice here, now some of you may look a little bit like this. So see here we have photos. So this is great if you want your photos to be your desktop background. So if you click this little arrow here next to where it says photos, it kind of opens up everything. And if I click here on photos, where it actually says the word photos, this is every photo that I have in the app called Photos, which is this little icon down here in the bottom center of my dock. So if I click on any of these images, I painted that on my iPad, by the way. Very proud of that one. You can make that your desktop background instead. One trick you might want to consider doing is if you want your photos to be your desktop background, what I would recommend you do is when we start to talk about the photos portion of this class, what I would do is create an album called desktop background. And then what you can do is put your favorite photos into that album, and that way it'll cycle through your photos. Also that way you can make sure that no other photos accidentally make their way in there. Bad memories, bad memories. Oh, couldn't close the laptop fast enough that day. Just kidding, just kidding. All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go back here to the main menu. We're gonna talk about the next item here, which is dock, okay? So you can see basically right there exactly what I would recommend you do on your screen, okay? You see those all right there. Next one we're gonna talk about here is we're gonna go into, let's see my notes right here. We're gonna go into security and privacy, starting with the general tab. Okay, so it's a little different what I recommend for all of you than what you're seeing here, so I just want to make it very clear. So this bottom part here where it says allow apps downloaded from, you'll notice that right now on mine it's grayed out. The reason why it's grayed out is this lock right here is on. So basically if you want to make that kind of a change, you have to click that lock and you have to type in the administrator password to your Mac. It is very important that you never forget your administrator password. The reason being is that the admin password is what saves all passwords in your computer. So if you forget it, you can get back in, but all those saved passwords are gone. So don't do it. And sometimes I like to simplify things, so it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I'm just saying never forget your admin password. So you can put it in and you're in. Now what I would actually recommend for most of you is this middle option here, which is allow apps downloaded from the App Store and identified developers. Why is that important? That's important for the same reason why, and I need to explain this, the reason why I always, in every class I have ever taught, I always give you links to protect you. For example, later in this class you're going to hear me recommend software that you cannot get through the App Store. If you Google that software, there's a lot of stuff that's going to pop up that might look like that software. It's not that software, and you don't want to install it. So choosing that middle option there is going to keep your computer safe. Very simple. Next one I want to talk about here is File Vault. Now, I get a little bit of heat sometimes when I talk about this, but this is my opinion. I'm a teacher. I'm entitled to it. So File Vault is basically a way to encrypt all of your files. I do not recommend it unless you are in a very high-profile position, and I do work with high-profile people sometimes. So for some of them, it is a great idea. For the majority of you, don't. The reason being is if you ever forget the administrator password to your computer, all of your data is gone. That's the point of encryption, to protect it. So what you want is the fact that it says turn on implies that it is currently turned off. So what you see there is what you want to see on your screen for the vast majority of you, unless Hillary Clinton has become a client of mine, in which case, hey Hill, what's up? Anyway, so next we're gonna go here to Firewall. There we go. I would recommend that you turn this feature on. Notice it says turn off because it is currently turned on. So this is just a really easy way to keep the other guys out. Very, very simple. Just do that to protect yourself. Privacy, it's basically great the way it is. You don't really need to worry about that so much. Let's get out of that. Next one we're going to talk about here is Spotlight. Fun little topic always to go over here. So you'll notice that here we have the second option unchecked. By default, that is checked. So that would be bookmarks and history. Once again, I am recommending this because I work with real people. I know what websites you have a tendency to go to. So if you don't want to type something into Spotlight and have something unfortunate pop up, like 80% of my clients, then you might want to consider unchecking that option. Good idea. Honey, why did that pop up? I don't know. Must be malware or something. Sure it is. Privacy, the other tab. So the reason why I like to recommend this, it sense a theme here. So here under Privacy, what I would recommend doing should you have certain adult files on your computer, possibly hidden in a folder called Taxes 2008, you might want to consider adding it to this list right here. So let's just recreate this issue. For any of you, once again, this is me saving you an embarrassing future moment. We're going to go here we're in the Downloads folder. I'm going to create a new folder. Don't worry, we'll talk about how to do that in a minute, called Taxes 2008, okay? So if I wanted to make sure that that folder never accidentally pops up in the search history, what I can do, I can't remember if you can still drag and drop this. Let me see. Yep, you can just drag it and drop it right here into this list, and now whatever's in taxes 2008 will never pop up in a search result. You're welcome, America. And, everyone. So let's get out of that. People like porn. Okay, moving on. Next is notifications. Notifications are those incredibly annoying, very useful things that fly across the top right of your screen here at the top, right, as I just mentioned. So if you find that things are popping up that are kind of annoying, you might want to go through this list right here. These are every app that you have in your computer, so like let's say email. If you don't want it to pop up, you can just click on each item here and click none. Or if you do want to be alerted, you can do either banners, and basically a banner will pop down, but then it'll go away. Whereas an alert, you have to close. Did I just sneeze during a class? Yep, I did. Let's see if Mark can edit that out, or maybe not, and he'll just leave it in there just to mess with me. The newscasters never do that, do they? All right, so there you have those items right there. Let's go back to the main thing here. Let's go into Energy Saver next. So Energy Saver, here you can see we have two different types. We have battery and power adapter. If you have an iMac, that's not going to be there. So, or battery won't be there. So at this point, what I would like to recommend is that you make a battery somewhere around 10, 11 minutes. Power adapter, yeah, right around the same. And then these bottom options you see here under battery. Actually, for this, I actually do recommend this. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. Okay. So right there on battery, you can see it says put hard disk to sleep when possible, and then slightly dim the display while on battery power. That's just to save you a little bit of energy. The last one there, Power Nap. Basically what Power Nap is it's a feature where your computer can check for things like emails even when it's asleep. It does use energy though to do it. So when you're on battery, I wouldn't do it. When you're on power adapter though, go for it. Absolutely. So that's that. Another thing I just want to say real quickly while we're talking about batteries is a very handy trick that I've shared with many people. Not everyone knows. So Apple claims that this feature this is no longer a problem, but I'll just say flat out that I still see it quite a bit. For those of you who have a laptop, if you leave it plugged in all day long, every single day, you will run down the battery. And then when you actually need it, it's going to be dead. Or just not last the full life. Now, if you've already been doing this for more than a year, at this point it may be too late to correct it. But basically what I like to tell everyone is imagine a battery on every device as a muscle. Use it or lose it. So if you want to keep a strong battery, then it's a good idea to use it. Just go be portable with it, use it on your couch, whatever, but actually use it. Don't leave it plugged in all day long. Next thing we're going to talk about here is keyboard, and I want to show you a really, really cool trick that I think a lot of you are going to love. Okay, actually a few tricks right here within keyboard. So the first one, we don't need to go over anything with keyboard. Text. This little option here is awesome. This is referred to as text replacement on the iPhone and iPad. So you do actually have the same feature. Unfortunately, it no longer syncs. It used to. Tim Cook, what's up with that? Used to sync, it doesn't sync anymore. So you got to do it on your laptop and then you got to do it on your iPhone and iPad. So basically what this means is that I can type a couple of keys and have it replace those couple of keystrokes with a sentence, a paragraph, a page, whatever you want. It's a really, really handy feature. And I want to show you exactly how I totally love using this every single day. So, oops, sorry, I forgot that I'm currently tethered to my iPad right now. So let's say I want to give someone driving directions to my home. Instead of typing them all out, I'm going to create a text replacement trigger phrase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of move this window over to the side for a moment. I'm going to open up Notepad, okay? You can see I just have some gobbledygook there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dictate real quick because I don't want to type it because I'm lazy. We'll go over how to dictate in just a moment. So I'm going to just give you exactly what's going to end up being the result. From Main Street, travel 2.3 miles and look for the barn with the funky windows, period. 1 block further, turn left onto Oak Street, period. Then travel 5 doors down and it's the first driveway on your right. That didn't make any sense, but who cares, period. That's what always happens when I have to dictate. I can improv an entire class. I have to dictate one sentence. Nope, can't do it. So anyways, I've got this whole big description for how to get to my not real home. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of that text and I'm going to copy it. So I'm just going to highlight it with my cursor, drag over it. I'm going to do simple copy and paste. So copy is Command C, and we're going to leave that app at this point. And then over here, in keyboard, I'm going to hit this little plus symbol that you see here at the bottom left. So we're going to create a new trigger phrase. So the first thing here is replace. So if I'm going to give directions to my home, I'm going to use the word addy, A-D-D-Y. Okay? So whenever I type in A-D-D-Y and then hit space, it's going to replace it with that whole phrase that I just dictated. So now at this point, over here where it says with, I'm going to paste. And now let's just try it out. Let's close it out. Let's go into a new email. These are fake email addresses, okay? And let's say I have to give someone driving directions. I'm going to type in ADDY space, and there it has auto-filled the entire sentence. You can create as many of these as you want. It's great for things like driving directions. It's great for common responses. So sometimes for like a thank you message, something like that. Happy birthday, if you want to make it look like you spent more time than you actually did writing out happy birthday. You can just pre-write whatever you want, create a little trigger phrase like that, and you're good to go. So that is that. Let's go back to where we were here. We were in keyboard. We're going to go to dictation, this last little one here. This is what I just did. So now with every Mac, you can dictate. Just take your words and put it into text. Very, very simple. So you want it to be on, and I would recommend that you use enhanced dictation. That basically just means that you'll be able to use this feature even when you're not connected to the internet. Okay, so you can see here we have language, in my case English, which I barely speak, apparently. Shortcut, you can choose whatever shortcut you want. I tend to recommend the the function key twice, or the command key twice, either command key twice. So it just means that when I double tap the FN key, for many of you that's going to be the key at the bottom left, it's going to start listening to what I'm saying, and I can just wait, I'll wait for the beep, and then I can just talk away. And what you'll notice, as you saw me just a moment ago, you can dictate things like punctuation, you can say next paragraph, so it's really, really handy, especially with things like emails. Great little feature. Let's get out of that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go here into trackpad. This part here, apologies those of you who are on an iMac, this is not going to really apply to any of you unless you happen to own the device known as a Magic Trackpad. So if you are on an iMac, try to follow along as best you can with the mouse option to recreate what I'm going to be doing right here. By the way, if you are on an iMac, I tend to recommend the Magic Trackpad. It's not for everyone, but I love it. So under trackpad, we have 3 different options here, and I'm going to basically let you just kind of copy exactly what I've got here. So under the first tab, under point and click, we have selected secondary click, and you'll see that the way to do this is with 2 fingers on the trackpad. So what it's going to do is when you cursor over any of these options, it's giving you an animation of what I'm doing just to the left, to the right. So a right click on a PC is a secondary click on a Mac. So for example, if I wanted to create a new folder, as you saw me do a moment ago, I can just click with 2 fingers on the trackpad, and voila, I got an extra little list of options, including new folder, just like that. Tap to click. Not everyone loves this, but I do, so check it out. And if you want to change the tracking speed, you'll find that below. Next we have scroll and zoom, and I would recommend doing probably all of these. So it just means how does the cursor scroll, zooming in and out. So for example, let's say you're in Safari and you need to make text bigger. You can just, it's the same gesture as it is on an iPhone or iPad. You start with your fingers together and then you're going to spread them. And so that's how you zoom in, and then the opposite to zoom out. Smart zoom, actually, sorry, forgot about that. I don't actually recommend that. Turn that feature off. Rotate, you can check if you like. Not a lot of you are going to probably use it. This is the big example, is if you're dealing with a photo and it's in portrait mode, but it's supposed to be in landscape mode, you can just rotate with your fingers on the trackpad and it will rotate the image. There is a hotkey to do that as well, which is Command R. Next is more gestures, okay? Swipe between pages. So an example for this, a little animation here, is if you're on the web. If you want to go back a page, you can swipe with 2 fingers from left to right. You will go back a page. The opposite, from right to left, yes, is to go forward a page. Next one here is swipe between full screen apps. So for example, when I was on Safari, okay, and we were full screen, if I didn't want to just close it in order to get back to the desktop, what I can do is with this feature turned on, I can take 3 fingers and I can just swipe from left to right and it moves it over. So it's as though the Safari window is just off screen here over to the right now. All right. Next one we have here, let's see, I'm not recommending Notification Center. I don't know many people who actually use it. Mission Control, okay. So what this basically means is if I have a bunch of apps that are all open, let's get out of full screen mode here, all at the same time, okay. What it means is I can take 3 fingers from the bottom of my trackpad and swipe up and you'll see that they all separate. Then I can click on any one of them to bring them forward, just like that, okay. Okay, next one we have here is Launchpad. So this basically involves taking 4 fingers wide. You can actually do it with 5, it doesn't matter. So start wide and bring them together. And it's the exact same thing as going into the Applications folder. It's just in this more graphical view. So it looks a little bit like an iPhone or an iPad screen. And what you can do is with 2 fingers, you can swipe between pages if you have more than 1 page of apps, just like that. Okay, that is trackpad options. Next one we're going to go over here is printers and scanners. Very, very quick mention about printers and scanners. Been doing this for a while, and one of the things I have noticed is that it is really, really hard these days to get good advice from salespeople about a printer. Unfortunately, a lot of what's out there, in my opinion, is crap. Most of it is crap. And so many people will fall for a low sale price and be stuck with a really not efficient printer. The problem isn't the printer so much, it's the ink. What they do is they will practically give you the printer because they know they're going to make their money back in ink. And a lot of printers these days don't have 2 cartridges, they have 5. And so remember, ink isn't only one of the most highly marked up items that there is, but it's also an item that dries out, so that if you don't use it, you're also not getting what you're paying for. So if you ever want a recommendation on a printer, I would like to give you some advice. Go to our website, techtalkamerica.com, and look for this page right here called Product Recommendations. And I constantly update this page as necessary. So what I do, for example, is in the case of printers, I will look for what are the best printers. Look at that list. There's 2 that I'm recommending right now. There is actually 1 or 2 that I have to add to that list. But if you want a good printer, I put those there for a reason, okay? The Canon one that you see there, by the way, that one is only 2 ink cartridges, not 5. The printer itself is, I think, maybe $60, and it's easy. It's wireless, it works with your iPhone and iPad. It's a really sweet printer, so you might want to check that one out. The Brother one, Brother makes great stuff in general. They are the only company that, if a printer company was ever going to endorse me, I would consider Brother. Maybe Canon, but Brother, yes. So if you ever need recommendations, you can always go to our website. You'll find them there, not just for printers, but for really any major electronic items. Okay, the reason why I want to go to printers and scanners, I want to just describe to you all how to set up a wireless printer. There are so many different models out there, it's impossible for me to tell you how to do every single one of them. But basically, if you get one that has a screen, the process is you have 3 devices that are communicating with each other. You have the printer, you have your computer, and you have the network. That is how they all communicate. They all talk through the network. So what you would do is you start on the printer usually, and in the printer there's going to be settings. In settings, you're going to look for something that either says wireless settings. It can sometimes be abbreviated as WLAN, W-L-A-N. Other times it'll just say wireless setup wizard. At that point, it's going to scan for the wireless networks that are available and find yours, and you're going to have to put in the password to that network. Once you're done with that, you're basically done on the side of the printer. The rest is all done from the computer. So from here, you would go to this little plus symbol. Now, this is an example of one of those things that is very consistent throughout the Mac. Whenever you want to add a new something, whether it's a new item to your calendar, a new contact to the contacts list, or a new printer, you're going to always look for a plus symbol like the one right there. So we're going to click on that. It's going to search for printers. There's mine right there. You click on it. It's going to now search for the drivers for that printer. Apple is pretty good at keeping up with all of them. So this is the part that saves you a ton of time on a Mac. I will tell you, and I was just telling a client of mine the other day, I can set up probably 20 Macs to connect to a wireless printer before I can do one PC, because they're just made better. So click on that, hit add, you're good to go. Very simple. One thing I do want to make clear though, if you set it up for wireless and then you plug it in, your computer is going to be looking for the plugged in version. So if you do that, you're going to want to go back here, remove the printer, so click on it and then hit the minus symbol and then re-add it as a wireless printer. So just be aware of that. Okie dokie. Next thing we're going to talk about here is we're going to go into iCloud. Very complicated thing here, but basically what you see here is for the most part what I tend to recommend. Okay, we're going to go through this piece by piece, starting with iCloud Drive. We're going to go here into options, and I'm going to actually change something that I had not recommended, but I had recommended before. I'm going to go back on it. Oops, looks like I quit out there for a moment. Let's go back to where we were. Sorry. Okay, so here in iCloud Drive, okay, you'll notice here I am right now unchecking desktop and documents folder. This is a tricky one. This is not going to be, for some of you it's going to be a great solution, for others of you not so much. The reason why this cannot be a good idea is you may find that because you have a lot of your stuff on the desktop or the documents folder, that you're going to blow through all of your iCloud data. Now, I never recommend the free version of iCloud. Everyone gets 5 gigabytes of cloud storage through Apple for free, but then at that point you can upgrade to more. And I have found that since I enabled that feature, I've blown through all of my storage. Now, the nice thing with this feature, who it is good for, is for any of you who are low on space on your computer. If you are running out of space, this is a very good idea, because what it's going to do is it's going to take older files that you haven't used in a long time, it's going to move them to the cloud, which frees up a ton of space locally on your computer so that you can still function. So it's going to be for some of you, but not for others. So if you're low on hard drive space, absolutely go for this option. Okay, but let's talk about everything else here. So we have photos as the next item. I'm going to go here into options. I would recommend exactly what you see here, which is that you use iCloud Photo Library and My Photo Stream. What that means is it's going to take your whole photo library, it's going to put it up on iCloud so that if something happens to your computer, you can get those photos back. All you would need to do is get a new computer. If, let's say it was stolen, you get a new computer, you'd sign into iCloud, all that stuff comes back from the cloud. For those of you who are unclear about what is the cloud, let me just try to give you a brief explanation. So the cloud basically refers to data servers. So Apple has these massive computers that are where no one lives, probably North Dakota. Apologies to the 2 people who probably live in North Dakota who just unfriended me. I'm kidding, we don't have any. And what it does is it takes the stuff that's on your computer and it puts a copy of it there. So if something happens to your computer, you can always pull that data back. It's a nice security feature. I don't recommend that people rely on it, okay? It's still important to back up your stuff. We're going to talk about backup in a little bit, but I do think it's a good idea. So iCloud for the photo library, I would absolutely say to go with. The exception to this rule is for some of you on your mobile devices, like an iPhone or an iPad. So if you have an iPhone or an iPad, if you're really low on space, you may not want to go with the first option. I would go with the second option for everyone. So what that basically means is the photo stream is the recent stuff. So the recent photos that you've taken, it's going to sync them all between your devices. Do you need your photo library on your iPhone? Probably not. Some of you do, but probably not for the good majority. And that will get you a lot of space back. Let's hit done. Oh, by the way, that other option you saw there, this one here, iCloud photo sharing, that's another one of those items where it's a cool feature, but it's a little too easy to accidentally move certain files into the photo stream that other people have access to. And suddenly that photo that you took that you thought was private now is broadcasted to people that you would rather not see it. This has not happened to me, by the way. This happened to a client of mine. Swear to God. Next one we have here is calendars, contacts, reminders, Safari, all those things there you can check. It just means it's going to sync all of the stuff between your various devices, and those items are relatively low data, so I would say absolutely go with them. Keychain is a tricky one. Some people, it's really hard for me to give a general recommendation. I tend to recommend not using Keychain. The reason why is there's another app that I think is friendlier. We have done an entire class on it. I will tell you all that as of the date that we're recording this class, it is a bit of an older class. It was back when we were under a different name. We used to be called PCClassesOnline.com, and then we rebranded to Tech Talk America. The information is still good in that class. If you would like to check it out, there is a link to it in the PDF document that we're giving to all of you. But basically, the app is called 1Password. I think it's better than Keychain. It's a way for you to very, very easily sync your passwords across all your different devices. It is worth it. Then we have Back to My Mac, which I don't know anyone who actually uses it, and Find My Mac. I would recommend turning that on, and it's a good idea to test this feature. And I just want to mention how you test it, because some of you may not know how to do it. So Find My Mac is basically, it's not going to be great if someone steals your computer, but if you lose it, or if the person who steals it is an idiot, which is very likely because criminals are not typically that intelligent, it's a way that you might be able to get it back. If any of your devices are stolen, what you do is you have to go on another computer to iCloud.com. You will then sign in through the web, and there's an app. Now, the name of the app is called Find My iPhone, but it's Find My whatever. Okay, so you can use that and basically figure out where was the last place that your computer was. If you have that feature turned on, it's just going to try to alert it and let you know where it is. And you can wipe your devices that way remotely. So it's just a good little trick. So make sure that you have that feature turned on, and I would recommend that you test it. So once again, iCloud.com, just sign in, make sure that it locates your stuff. Let's get out of that. Next thing we're going to talk about very quickly here is App Store. Okay, you can check pretty much everything up here. You may or may not want to install Mac OS updates automatically. That part's kind of optional, up to you. I find that it tends to do it at the most inopportune moments, so that's why I choose to not do that one. And then if you do have multiple computers, you can check this right here. That's to automatically download apps that if you have multiple computers, if you pay for them on another one, you'll automatically get it on this one. Okay, next one we have here is, we're going to skip over internet accounts. I want to just talk very quickly about network, and I want to give you a very common, a good trick. So whenever I talk about Wi-Fi, I like to bring this up and understand that this is my opinion. This is me talking from experience of years of doing this. So there's a very common issue that affects a lot of Mac users, which is they are on their devices more than anything, computers, but on iPhones and iPads as well. And they are connected to the internet, and then suddenly it just disconnects. And they find that then they unplug their router, they plug it back in, and it magically comes back to life. If I have just described your situation, hi, how you doing? David A. Cox here. Remember that product recommendations page? This is where it's now your friend. There is a product that is very, very heavily pushed by every big box store called Linksys. Linksys, also known as Cisco, Cisco is the company that owns the brand Linksys, has been for years making routers that have problems, especially with Apple computers. So if you find that your internet randomly drops out for no apparent reason, or frankly, if you just feel like it's really kind of slow, or you wish that you had more range throughout your home, there is a product that I would very strongly recommend to you, and I would ask that you please use the link that we give you in that product recommendations page. We get a small commission for doing that, called the Airport Extreme. Another good one is also the Time Capsule. They're very similar devices, but it's the best router out there. We have already created a class on how to set it up for all of you, which is a free class, but it's the best wireless router out there. And what I tell my clients is that you are already, most likely, paying a lot of money for internet. And if you're using a cheap router, you're not getting what you're paying for. So I tell everyone, it is absolutely worth it. Buy it. And if you use our link, we thank you. So that is that. What I want to show you here, though, in network is a very common issue that a lot of people have. Unfortunately, I can show you how to do it on a computer. There is currently no way to do this on an iPhone or an iPad. And Apple, if you're watching, please give us a way to do this. Thank you. If you have this problem where you come home, you open your laptop, and it connects to the wrong network, like it connects to your neighbors, or it connects to the free network that's broadcast throughout the neighborhood. Here's how you fix that issue. You're going to go here into Network Settings, go into Advanced, and you'll see a list. It's grayed out right now because I have to authenticate as an admin, but you will see all the other networks here. What you can do is the top of the list is top priority. So if you're connecting to the wrong network all the time, you're going to take the correct network and you're going to drag it to the very top of this list. Then hit OK, then hit apply at the bottom right, and you're good to go. So very, very common issue. Just want to make sure I went over with all of you. Next one we're going to go over here is Bluetooth very quickly. Bluetooth, this is the wireless technology so that you can use things like for example, you can see mine. I have my headphones and a wireless keyboard that I am loving right now. So if you ever want to connect a Bluetooth device to your computer, I'm going to, again, like with the printers, I'm going to give you the general way that it works, okay? Typically with Bluetooth on the other device, you're going to usually hold a button and it looks like this icon right here. That is the icon for Bluetooth. So you're going to press and hold it, and usually something's going to light up, it's going to beep at you, something like that to indicate that it is going into pairing mode. Then you'll come here to this list right here, hit pair, good to go. So very, very simple. By the way, for any of you out there, I'll just say a quick recommendation, because I tend to throw this stuff out there. Those of you who, I find a lot of my clients who are writers and miss the real chunky keyboards. I've been using the word chunky a few times today. If you like that click, that snap back, there's a great keyboard, you saw it referenced there, made by the company ASIO. I'll give you a link in the PDF guide, but it's a really, really nice keyboard. It's also a full-size keyboard, and in the case of the wired option that they make, it's actually backlit too, which is very, very cool. So if you like that chunky keyboard, also works with an iPad, it's one to check out. Give you a link in that PDF. Anyone know what PDF means? Portable document format. There, you learned something today. How about that? Who knew? They would actually learn something today. Next one we're going to go over is users and groups. So this is where it's great if you have a spouse, if you want to have your own private space to do things, this is where you are going to go to create this. Again, once again, I have to click that little lock icon to make a change. So you'll see I have my personal account right here. If I want to add a new account, remember that word, we're going to hit that plus symbol, and we can create a new account. And you can give it whatever privileges you want as far as security goes. For most of you, you're just going to do probably either a standard user or admin. The next thing we're going to talk about quickly here, and then we only have a couple more left here in system preferences, is Siri. So Siri, the automated assistant that never seemed to actually listen to you, is now part of your computer. Hooray! Maybe it'll work better now. Maybe. It won't. So Siri now here, as you can see, is on the Mac. You can choose what language, what voice. I have mine as a British man. Don't know why, but for whatever reason it makes Siri sound smarter. He isn't, but it makes him sound smarter. Voice feedback, I would recommend turning that on. That way it talks back to you. Mic input, and then keyboard shortcut. So the keyboard shortcut, this is another example of a hotkey, so you can choose whichever one you want. The one that I would recommend is hold command space. Notice it's not press, it's hold. The reason why I recommend that is if you tap command space, that is spotlight. So to search for anything on your Mac, command space, just tap them both at the same time. But if you want to get into Siri, you're going to press and hold command and the space bar. Hey Siri, what's up?
I'm learning some new tricks.
That's hilarious. Thank you for that. So there have been some interesting Siri stories here at Tech Talk America. We won't go into them right now. Live classes. Oh God, we miss those days. No, we don't. All right. Some of you were probably at that class. That's a story for another time. Maybe we'll tell it in the outtakes of this video. So let's get out of here. That's Siri. I just want to show you that part. Time Machine. I do want to mention this real quickly. Time Machine is a feature that's built into every single Mac, and I would strongly recommend that all of you, no exceptions, do it. Now, in order to use Time Machine, you need an external hard drive. Now, this is another example where there's a lot of stuff out there, and I don't recommend most of it. There is one particular brand, once again, that I try to tell people to stay away from, called LaCie. LaCie is unfortunately very heavily pushed at Apple stores. Thanks, Apple. They're most notably recognized by the orange bumpers that you'll see on some of them. So the problem I find with LaCie hard drives is not the actual drive. The problem is the components that are inside the hard drives that have to do with power, and they have a tendency to blow up. Now, it's not going to set your house on fire, but it is going to make the drive fail if it suffers it. For example, I will just tell you, real life story, a client of mine owns a very big website, 15, let's see, hard drives, all the exact same issue. Data, no problem, got that, but the power was dead. Wonder if there's a recall that should have been offered. So, if you're looking for an external hard drive, would you like to take a guess at where you can find one? Oh, that's right, TechTalkAmerica.com, product recommendations. So there you go. The other option, though, is the product that I mentioned a moment ago, the Time Capsule. So if you need both a router and a backup system, you are better off with buying a device. It is made by Apple. We'll give you a link, called the Time Capsule. It will wirelessly back up multiple computers easily. And the big problem I find a lot of people have with backing up is they don't do it. And what's nice with it is it's automatic. You don't have to plug anything in. If you're online, you can back up. So it's a really, really cool feature you might want to consider checking out. And that is that. So let's take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Apple menu. All right, folks, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the Apple menu. That is the Apple icon you see here at the top left of my screen. So this is where you can get a ton of really important information, starting with about this Mac. Now, we got to blur out part of the screen for this. I've always been told to keep my serial number private. I don't know why, but I've always been told that. So, for example, this is where you can go to find the serial number of your computer. If you ever need to contact Apple, they're going to ask you for that info. It's right there. Again, mine's blurred out. Next one we're going to go over here, though, which is really important, is storage. This is where we get into iCloud Drive. Now, this is going to be different for different folks, but I want to try to give you like a general recommendation here. So this is a visual idea of how much stuff you have on your computer, okay? So you've got a lot of stuff here. Mine's not going to look like a lot of yours, by the way. So yeah, I was going to say, why is it saying system? All right, so other users, that'd be my other account on this computer. But you're going to have, different like documents, you're going to have your apps, you're going to have music and videos, all that stuff there. If you have less than 20% free on your computer, you may start to notice that it's slowing down. That is normal. You want to try your best to keep at least 20% of your computer free at all times. It's just a good idea. Now, there is a product I want to mention. It's not for everyone. If you use the SD card slot on your computer, it is not for you. But there is a product called TarDisk. I would recommend that you check out the video that we did on it before you buy it. Make sure you know what you're getting into. But it is one very easy way to dramatically increase the storage on any laptop. It does not work on the iMac, but it does work on the various laptop models that they have. If you go here into Manage, okay, this will pop up. This is where basically you can get iCloud to work with the Mac to relieve some stress from the local hard drive. It's going to move some stuff over to the cloud. This is one of those things where you all just have to kind of do it on your own and see what works. But it's a good idea to kind of know what you have as far as stuff. So you know, am I almost out? If you are running out, this is your new best friend, okay? Hit Store in iCloud. It's going to move all of your documents, in your desktop over to the cloud. It's going to free up a lot of space on your computer, which may make it run a little bit faster. Optimize storage with iTunes. I've said this before in our classes. I'll say it again real quick. We're not going to really talk a lot about iTunes because I don't love it. I don't tend to recommend it to a lot of people these days. It's okay. It used to be better, and then they changed a bunch of stuff, and now it's not quite so good. And they've had some problems with it. So if you do use iTunes, I would probably say hit optimize. What it's going to do is it's very simple, but if, as it says here, TV shows that you've, for example, already watched, it's going to get them off your computer. You can still get them. If you purchase them, you can still download them, but it's going to take it off of your computer. It's just an easy way to clean things up. Also here, look at reduce clutter. You're going to want to hit review files here. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you the files that are taking up the most space in your computer. So if there's, for example, a video file that you just totally forgot was there, it's going to be at the top of the list. Oh, well, I guess I should probably get rid of that video if I don't care about it anymore. Great, you just potentially relieved a lot of space on your computer. So check that out. Also, you can go through here, for example, in applications. You can see what applications are taking up the most space. So you see that there. And just kind of gives you a very good visual idea of what you have as far as your stuff goes. Next, under the Apple menu, we have System Preferences, which we just went over. App Store. App Store is by far the best way to get any app on your computer. The apps that I tend to recommend more than any, there's not really a lot. A few of them are located in the App Store. The big one, I'll give you right off the bat, is 1Password. I already made a reference to it, but it is the absolute best way to sync your passwords between all your various devices, in my opinion. This is where you're going to go anytime you want to upgrade the operating system to your Mac. You shouldn't probably always do that. Keep in mind, anytime you put new technology on an older computer or an older whatever, typically it doesn't work so well. So just mentioning that. There's a couple of apps that I tend to recommend. For those of you who are really into photography and are looking for something a little bit better than maybe photos, as far as manipulation goes, there's two apps that I tend to like. One I think you actually just saw pop up on the screen. One is called Affinity. The other is called Pixelmator. Both very, very good. I have to give credit to Pixelmator as they have some really great tutorial videos on their website. That's just an example of some of the apps that I recommend, but this is where you go to get everything. And what's great is that it's secure, because to get in the App Store, you have to be approved by Apple. So you know that it's only good guys here. So that's how you do that. That's App Store. Next one I want to talk about here is ForceQuit. Okay, so ForceQuit, this is the equivalent of Control-Alt-Delete. There we go, on a PC. Everyone knows Control-Alt-Delete except apparently me. The important thing that I think all of you should know is how to do that on a Mac, which is Command-Option-Escape. It's one of those key commands you want to master. So if ever an application freaks out and freezes, you can either go to the Apple icon, go to ForceQuit, or you can do Command-Option-Escape, and it'll pull up the same thing. That way you can isolate that one crashing app instead of having to reboot the whole computer. Then we have here sleep, restart, shutdown options right there. Just give a real quick spiel on that. How often should I restart my computer? Once every 2 weeks. How often should I shut down my computer? You really don't need to. If there's a storm coming, it's probably not a bad idea, especially if you're on a desktop, obviously. And on that note, for those of you who are on an iMac, there is a piece of equipment I would strongly, strongly recommend to all of you, especially if you live anywhere that is prone to either blackouts, brownouts, or power surges. And that is to get a device. It's made by a company called CyberPower. These are usually referred to as either a UPC, or sometimes they call it an APC, but it's basically a battery backup system, so that if the power goes out, it doesn't hit your computer. The important part here, by the way, is the battery, because a lot of people don't even think about this, but a brownout can be as damaging to your computer as a blackout or a surge. So, because your computer heats up rapidly during a brownout and you can blow components. So if you are on an iMac, go over that product recommendations page. It's called a CyberPower unit. There's one model that I tend to recommend for a 27-inch iMac, another model for a 21-inch iMac. You need a little bit more power with the 27-inch just because it requires more power. And to be clear, this is not a generator. This is to give you enough time to shut down during something like a storm. Another quick tip I would like to give to all of you. Let's say you live somewhere where you do tend to get a lot of blackouts. So typically speaking, power and internet are two different connections. If you have your internet plugged into a battery backup, so your modem and your router both on a battery backup, and the power goes out, you may not lose internet. Sometimes you might. That seems to be the case sometimes. But other times, if you have them both running on a battery backup, if that's the only thing you have running, you can actually stay online during the power outage, which is a good thing. So you might want to check that out. Shutdown, I tend to recommend shutting down your computer. You know, you don't really need to a lot. Like I said, only during a storm, maybe once every month is not a bad idea. But it is a good idea to restart your computer once every 2 weeks or so. There's just certain updates that won't complete until you actually do that. So that is a good idea. Log out is only going to be important if you have multiple accounts. You can log out of one, log into another. So that right there is the Apple menu. Next thing we're going to talk about here is the items we have here at the top right. Now, you're not going to have all of these necessarily. The first one, though, right here, this is Notification Center. So this is just, for example, it's going to give you like the date and time, stock market, calendar. These are all what we refer to as widgets, okay? And these can be completely customized by scrolling to the bottom and going here to Edit. Okay, and so it's based on what apps you have in your computer. These are mostly base apps, except for maybe Twitter there and Todoist. But if you want, you can move them, you can add them by hitting the little minus symbol if you want to remove it. If you want to add them, hit the little plus symbol. So if I want to add the simple calculator, I can do that. Okay, and now when I go in, I will have a simple calculator right there. You'll also notice here under Notification Center that we have two tabs. We have Today and Notifications. So notifications, that would be, for example, people, in my case, you can see people who are following me on Twitter, which I don't ever use because I hate Twitter. Did I say that? Yep, I did. It could be emails, it can be Facebook announcements, all sorts of different stuff. You'll see it all right there. Again, not everyone uses Notification Center, but it's there if you want it. You do not need to clear it. You don't have to. Okay, next one we have right here is Siri. This is one way to get to Siri. So if I click on that, I can ask Siri, whatever. What's the weather going to be like tomorrow?
Here's the weather tomorrow.
Wonderful. Meh. All right. I shouldn't have asked that probably. So next we have here, but anyways, back to Siri real quickly. One of the things we're going to give to all of you, in all seriousness, I do joke a lot usually when I talk about Siri, just to make it easier to help this class flow. Mark and I are going to put together in the PDF for all of you the most useful Siri commands that you all should probably know. For example, adding things to your calendar. So instead of wasting your time and me explaining all of them to you, we're just going to give them to you in that PDF guide. So make sure you check that out. Next one we have here, the spyglass, that is Spotlight. Once again, the hotkey to get to Spotlight, just tap the command key and the space bar. At the same time, you pull up Spotlight. Spotlight has gotten a big improvement, has received a big improvement upgrade over the last few years. It is really intelligent now, so now you can search for things like weather, movie show times, not just stuff on your computer. So search for whatever you want there. And if you have your preferences set up right, nothing should pop up that shouldn't. You're welcome. Next one we have here, we have battery. It'll just basically show you what apps are using the most energy if you are on battery, if you're on a laptop. I would recommend that you use this option here, show percentage. By default, that is not enabled. I don't really know why that's not enabled. Then we have some other items here which you may or may not see, but we have Wi-Fi, AirPlay. We don't really need to go over that today, and a few other apps that I use that you probably don't. Next thing that we're going to talk about here, I want to go over a little bit about how to select multiple items. This is just a general skill that is really important for all of you to master because this pops up everywhere in the operating system. You need to know how to do it. So I'm going to use email here as an example. Now this is a fake account, so don't ever try to write me there. I was just working with someone earlier today going over how do you delete, if you have to seriously spring clean your email, if your email has become like e-hoarders, okay, this is the best way to do it. Don't do it from your iPhone, don't do it from your iPad, do it from a Mac, because if you do it right, it'll sync. So there are 3.5 or so ways to select multiple items on a Mac. Individual, list, and everything. And then one other one, which we'll talk about in a moment. So the first one I want to show you is when they're random. So let's say I am going through my emails. I'm going to go full screen here. Let's say I want to go through and I want to delete one here. I want to delete one there. They're not really in any particular order, right? What I can do is I can hold the command key on my keyboard and now I can click on multiple emails, okay? And notice how they're all selected right now. If I hit delete, those are all gone, okay? So that's when they're kind of all over the place. That's going to be useful in all sorts of different applications. And it's not just deleting. It could be that I want to print 10 photos, okay? I can hold the command key, I can click on 10 photos, hit print, and it's going to print all 10 photos. It's anytime you want to do something to a bunch of somethings, whatever. The next way is a list. So a list, let's say I want to delete everything from here through here. Okay, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to click on the first one, I'm going to hold the shift key this time, and I'm going to click on the last one. So now you'll see all of those emails in between have now been highlighted. And now, for example, I could hit delete, I could hit print, whatever, and I'll affect it. Whatever I tell it to do, it'll do to all of them. The next one is everything, okay? If I want to just select everything and just maybe delete it, whatever. The universal command for select all is Command A, okay? So hit Command A, now everything is highlighted, and I could theoretically hit delete and it'll wipe out everything. Now you notice how I said there's sort of another halfway? Well, here's the reason why. Let's say I want to select a giant list, okay? I'm going to click on the first one, hold Shift. I'm going to even scroll down a bit here, okay? I'm going to click down here. So we have all of these emails here selected now. What if I want to make an exception to the rule? Well, the reason why I say half other way is if something is already highlighted and you want to unhighlight it, holding Command and clicking it again will deselect it. So now if I hit delete, it's going to not include those 3 messages that I just clicked on. Next thing we're going to talk about is the mail program, and we're going to also talk a little bit about email real quickly. So there's a few things I always like to talk about whenever we're dealing with this subject matter, starting with who should I use? So again, usually this is kind of waffle between 3. The only ones that I have ever really recommended are iCloud, which is currently number 1. Second would be maybe Gmail, and then there's using your own domain name. Now, your own domain name means basically you're creating a custom address. So, for example, mine, I could do myname@mywebsite.com or .org, whatever it would be. So if you would like to do that, we have a class on how to set that up. The service that I recommend to everyone is called Bluehost. There's another company out there that gets a lot of press, and I tend to not really recommend them to a lot of people. Just have not been so thrilled with their customer service. Bluehost has always been good. The one thing I will say is if you ever decide to go with Bluehost, if you ever need support, call them. Don't use their online support. Their phone operators are much better trained, clearly. So if you're going with email, here's the reason why I recommend those 3. When you go with some of these accounts out there, like Yahoo, like Hotmail, AOL, the problem with them is that those are free for a reason. They're making money by giving out your information. People who find that they are going through junk mail hell, okay, know exactly what I'm talking about. They're like, how did I get all of this junk? Well, even if you're really good about not giving out your email address, just by using some of these services, you are giving your information out there, okay? All you have to do is create a new email address and then never ever use it, and you'll still get emails. So for any of you on that topic, any of you out there who are dealing with a lot of junk mail and are looking for a great solution, I would like to recommend that you check out a class that we did recently. It is on, it's kind of complicated. It's an app, but it's also a website. So you can go through either version. And it doesn't work with every email address out there. It does work with a lot of the major ones, but the website address is unroll.me. That's the actual website address. We have a class on it. They also make a fantastic app for the iPhone or iPad. I tend to think the app actually works better on the iPhone. But it's a free service. You basically sign into it and they scan through all of your emails. They find out every mailing list that you're on, and with one tap you can hit unsubscribe or keep it. It's a really, really simple service. I recommend that you check it out. So that is a little bit about email advice. I want to go over a few little things here though with actual email programs. So let's actually get out of full screen mode here, just so I can make it look a little bit more like what you all have there. Okay, I want to go over a couple different ways that you can delete messages. This is just kind of a good handy trick. So first thing you should know is that if you are on something like a laptop, if you swipe with 2 fingers from right to left, whoosh, you can delete. Very, very simple. By the way, the exact same thing is true on the iPhone and the iPad with 1 finger. So if you are in the list view and you just swipe, whoosh, it's gone. By the way, on iPhone, iPad, handy trick, if you ever need to undo that feature, just shake it. Just and it will undo. So if you need to do that on a Mac, this would be a very good moment for me to tell you how to do that, wouldn't it? So let's say, oops, I really wanted that email. No, bring it back. Very important hotkey for you to be aware of. Undo, Command Z, as in zebra. Same thing as on a PC, except on a PC it's Control. So Command Z, boom, it is back from the digital grave. Ooh, spooky. So that is one way to delete your emails. The next is to hit the little trash can up here at the top. It might, for some of you, look like this though. It might look like a box. Basically, the difference between the two, in some cases, you'll see that the language is delete. In other cases, it's archive. It's all based on what kind of email you use. For example, if you're on Gmail, it's archive. If you're on, what is this? This one's actually Gmail. But on something like Bluehost, I believe it's delete, it's trash. So different language, but it's basically the same thing. Okay. Also, I want to give you a very simple trick here. So this thumbs down button that you see here, that is to mark a message as junk. Keep in mind, when you mark it as junk, you're not resolving the problem, okay? The problem is that you're subscribed and you want to unsubscribe from it. That's where unroll.me is very handy. There is an exception to the rule though. You should never ever click the unsubscribe button if it's, I'm just gonna say, if it's porn. Okay, if it's porn, if it's like Viagra or one of those, because a lot of those, the unsubscribe button is basically you telling them, all right, we got their attention, now we're gonna send them even more. Yay! So don't hit that. That would be an example where you would wanna hit junk, okay? But there's this really strange issue that a lot of people go through, I go through it all the time, where you might have a message that's marked as junk, you go here into junk, let's see if I can find one. Apologies to whoever it is whose email address I am now revealing. Oh, this one's spam, so I don't mind revealing their email address. Okay, there is a weird problem where it'll mark it as junk and you can't undo it. If that is the case, okay, I'm just gonna have to verbally walk you through this. Then when you click on the message, see here it says, currently says move message to inbox. That would still be a down. What you have to do is you have to remark it as junk and then you can undo it. Weird little feature there. Anyways, that's a little bit about email. Also, let's go over what these other icons are here. We have get new mail, so it's going to basically just automatically check, and you click on it, it's going to check and see if there are any new messages. Compose a new message. Now, when you're composing a new message, not all of you, get rid of that, are going to see BCC, and I want to clarify what these different things mean. So when it's going to someone, whatever email addresses are there are public. So if you're sending it to a group of friends, your friends can see each other. If you send it as a CC, which stands for carbon copy, it's essentially the same thing. It's just kind of the more formal way of doing it. There is another option here that you might want to consider adding, which if you click on this icon here, you can get a BCC address field. That is, if we're talking email courtesy, that is what you should always use when you're sending out a group message, okay? So if you're sending an email to like 50 people, it's not good to reveal everyone's email addresses, especially if it's for something like work. So BCC means it's going to you can only see who it's sent to. So if I was gonna send out a group email, let's say, I would send it to myself, because that's the email address I want to be seen, and then BCC everyone else. Subject, body, you get the rest. Okay, the other icons we have here, again, we have trash or archive, junk, reply, reply all, forward, flag. Flag is basically just a way of marking a message. It's going to create a new folder, if you see over here, new mailbox, okay, and it's an easy way for you to find something. Okay, there's a couple of other little tricks I'd like to show you here while we're in email, and let's go into mail preferences. Now, like I said at the beginning of this class, where are the preferences? They're always right here. You click on the name of the app, and it's right here, preferences. So let's go into that. So under general, okay, this is basically what I tend to recommend, okay? We have default email reader, of course, mail, check for new messages. Every 5 minutes seems to be about the right number without it being too often and not frequent enough. Okay, you can have it play a ding if you want. Everything else there you can save as, it's basically all good with the defaults. Junk mail, okay, I would recommend that you use these options here, but like I said, check out that app called unroll.me. It's free, it's awesome, do it, it's great. It just doesn't work for everyone. If you have something like Bluehost, it won't work. Fonts and colors, if you want to change the font in general, if you want to make everything a little bit larger, this is one way to do it. So if I want the message font to be bigger, I could go in here and change it from 12 to, let's say, 18. Okay, you notice it updated everything in the background there. Viewing, okay, basically you can leave, I think this is all left as default. Composing, okay. This is a new feature in the latest operating system. Send a new message from basically the best account. It'll try to figure it out on its own, and it seems to actually be pretty good so far. So that's really only important for those of you who have more than one email address. Signatures. So this is where, let's say you want something to be there at the bottom of every email. So for example, on the iPhone and the iPad, by default, it always says sent from my iPhone or sent from my iPad. If you want something that's a little bit better than that, this is where you can make that happen. So what we would do is we would be adding a signature, listen to the language, plus symbol. So create a new signature, okay? And we can put in our information. Let's delete that part there. Okay, we'll put in a phone number. Okay, whatever else I want. I want to give you a little quick tip here. For those of you who are if you are going to go through switching your email, this is a good way to get your friends to do it. So what you can do is you can create a signature at the bottom of every single message that says, hey, person, please note I've changed my email address. Save this new address to your computer, okay, or your address book. Then if you wanted to automatically add that signature to your email, you're going to have to drag this right here into the account. So let's just do the Google one here, okay? There's one more step. You got to go here into that account, click on it so that it's highlighted, and where it says choose signature, hit signature one. So now when I go in here and I create a new message, you'll notice that it already has my information there at the bottom of the email. That's a great little trick. Or really if you have any other kind of information that you would like to be there on the email. So some people will do, for example, you can do even like a link to your Facebook profile. You can do, of course, you know, your address, whatever you want. You can put it right there in signature. The last one I want to just talk about real quickly here is rules. Rules is a great little feature here in email. I'm going to give you a general way of how you can use this, but basically this is a way to automate something that happens when you get a certain type of email. So let's say, for example, just thinking off the top of my head, let's say I want any subject of any message that has, you see here in the background, there's a lot of messages from Twitter, okay? So if I want to make automatically all the emails from Twitter go to junk, okay? This would be one way that you could theoretically do it. So I would hit create add rule. I can call it whatever I want. I'm going to call it Twitter. So I can say if any email, and these are all the different parameters, so I can say let's just use subject. If the subject contains the word Twitter, okay, then I can tell it to do this, which might be moving it to a certain mailbox, it might be trashing it, it might be marking it as important, whatever you want. I'm going to move the email to the trash. Hit OK, and in the background when it goes to apply that rule, you'd see all of those messages move now into the trash. Pretty cool feature. So that is rules in email. Other thing I just want to say real quickly here in email is that if you look here at the top right of any message, you'll see we have a few other little icons here, including the paperclip icon. Okay, so that's to add an attachment. So I can add something like a photo or a document. Another thing you can do is you can literally just drag and drop it into the email and it will be there. The other one I want to go over here is the photo browser. So this is basically connecting into the Photos app. Okay, so I can take one of these photos here, or I can select multiple photos, and I can drag it into the email. For those of you who are curious, by the way, how I shoot some of these photos, one of my little hobbies is that I'm an aerial drone photographer and videographer. So there's one of them. One trick I would like to give to all of you who like to email photos is pay attention to right here on the right-hand side towards the middle. So it says image size. I believe by default this is actually set to actual. Now the actual size of many photos is massive, especially now that things like the iPhone and the iPad cameras have gotten so advanced, the size of these files can be very, very significant. So if you're emailing someone a photo and they're not going to print it, they're just going to kind of view it, always go here into image size and change it to either medium or large. It looks just as good, it's just not quite as big from the back end. So your friends will appreciate it if you do that. It's a very easy way for you to just shrink down everything and make it much more mobile friendly. Where that's really, by the way, handy is if you, let's say you receive an email and you're on cellular data, okay? If it's a full-size image, you're gonna eat through a lot of data really, really fast. So your friends will like you for doing that. So one last thing I want to go over here in email is a new feature that you'll find in the latest operating system for the Mac. It's called Mac OS Sierra, which is this little icon you see right here where my cursor is. That is to just basically take all of your unread messages and move them to the top, okay? And if you click it again, it puts it back to the way it was. But it's just a really easy way to find those new messages and just really quickly go through them. Next, folks, we're going to be talking a little bit about Photos. So let's go into the Photos app here. The Photos app for the Mac, some people love it, some people hate it. I actually don't really hate it. I know when it first came out, a lot of people didn't love it, but I'd like to show you a couple quick things here. If you want to learn much more about Photos, we do have an entire class all about Photos, which you can check out. We'll give you a link to it, but that one is just dedicated to Photos. So one thing I want to show you if you're brand new to this stuff is you may notice that Photos looks a little bit different on your computer than it does on mine. There's one really important change that I would recommend that you consider making, which is if you look up here at the top menu bar, of course it says Photos, but one of the options here is View. Now, mine currently says Hide. We're going to change it. So now it says Show. All right, so if you click that so that it says Show Sidebar, okay, it brings back the sidebar that you see there. This is just a really easy way to get into your albums and just sort through everything. I would really strongly recommend that you do that. Just makes it more like the old app iPhoto. So I would recommend you do that. Let's go over just a couple of little features here. And like I said, if you want to learn much more about Photos, you can check out our whole class all about that. I want to show you quickly how to create an album because I did make a reference to it earlier. So easy way to do this is go to File, and we're going to go to the second option down, the New Empty Album, and we're going to call it, let's see, I haven't done it yet, right? I'm going to call it Desktop Backgrounds, okay? And so what I'm going to do now is you'll see it is here at the bottom of my albums list, and we're going to go through, we're in Photos, all of the photos that we really love, and we're going to drag them and drop them into desktop backgrounds. So like here's a panoramas may or may not work so well. I'm just going to put in a couple of photos here just so we have something to work with. Okay, and this is where I was showing you if you want your photos to be your desktop background, you can now get out of Photos, go into System Preferences, go over to Desktop and Screensaver, and check it out. Here under Albums, we now have an album called Desktop Backgrounds. So I can now have it cycle through those photos, and voila. It's just a nice little way to make your computer a little bit more personal if you decide you don't want to go with either the ones that Apple gives you or that other app that I referenced earlier, Magic Window. So that's a really kind of a cool little feature I thought I would show you real quick. Let's go back into Photos here. Okay, the other thing I want to show you is a new feature. Let's go here into this particular photo. I'm going to double click on it. Now this icon that you see here at the top right corner, that is the edit button. And for those of you who have an iPhone or an iPad, that's the new edit button on those as well. Okay, and we get all these little options right here. I want to show you a new feature here in Photos. This part is not in the class that we did on Photos, which is why I'm covering it. We're going to go here into Adjust. Okay, now you'll notice here, for many of you, we have three categories here. We have light, color, and black and white. There is a new little feature here that will basically instantly make all of your photos look way better. I want to show you how to do it. So to the right of where it says light, okay, I can't remember, is it light or color? Yep, it's light. Okay, see this little arrow right here? We're going to click on that, and basically these are the different aspects of light that you can alter. So for example, we have brilliance, exposure, highlights, shadows, brightness, contrast, and black point. The new feature is the very first one here, brilliance. And just adding a little bit of brilliance, this sounds so poetic, right? Adding a little bit of brilliance to pretty much any photo is going to make it look way better. So I would recommend you add that. That's probably a little much for that photo, but it is a pretty good photo, so it deserves a lot of brilliance. When you're done, hit done. You're good to go. Another thing I just want to say real quickly about Photos so that you all know is that let's say you alter your photos. The way that the app works from the back end, and I'm not going to go techie, don't worry, is it always holds on to the original. So if you ever want to go back to the way that the photo originally was, even if it was years ago, you can just go into, as if you're going to edit the photo, and this button is right up here at the top, Revert to Original. Very easy way to just knock out all those settings, get back to the real version. Okay? That's that. Another feature here that's new is memories, okay? So this is kind of like an interesting sort of slideshow way. It can show you kind of like this date and time. This is a demo computer, a demo account, so it's not going to be able to show you a lot. But you can see, for example, it'll group together photos from like a road trip or from this day from a few years ago, that kind of thing. It's kind of a cool feature. You may or may not appreciate it, but that is a new one I want to at least mention. Those of you, I want to mention two quick things. If any of you are dealing with the issue of duplicates, I know it's a very, very common issue. We have an entire class devoted to showing you how to resolve this issue. Check it out, link in the PDF guide. Also, I want to mention, funny how we always keep coming back to this topic, isn't that funny? For those of you who have photos that are in your computer that you would rather not ever be seen by other people, or by people like leaning over your shoulder, there is a phenomenal app that you might want to consider checking out. We have actually already recorded a class on it. By the time this comes out, I don't know if that class will be available or not, but the name of the app is called Hider 2. I hope you will check out that class, and if you decide to go with it, it's a good app. It's basically a way to encrypt your photos, certain photos. Next, let's, I think we can get out of, there is one other thing I want to just mention real quickly while we're here in photos. A lot of you write to me and you tell me that you like to print your photos. I'd like to give you a little bit of advice on this. If you're trying to save some money, I would recommend you not go with a photo printer. What I would recommend you do is you get a good flash drive, you know where to find them, the recommended ones, and you can just put them onto a flash drive. Flash drives are also known as thumb drives, okay? They're the little portable USB sticks. Go to pretty much any, not grocery store, convenience store, pharmacies have them these days, and they have these little kiosks where you can plug in a flash drive and you can print them there. It is significantly cheaper than going out and buying a color printer and having to buy the ink and having to buy the photo paper. It's just easier and better to just have them printed elsewhere. The other option is you can have Apple print them, or you can use online services. There's a whole bunch of different ones that are out there. If you're checking out different ones, the one I'll give a quick shout out to is Shutterfly. They do a lot of good work, so I admire them as a company. And I have bought some of their stuff myself, and I don't get paid to say that. Wish I did. I don't. I wish I did. Next one we have here, we're going to get out of photos. If you want to learn more about it, we got a whole class on it, right? Skip over that. Contacts. I want to go over Contacts real quick. So the Contacts app is this little brown book that you see here. This is basically the best way to store your contacts information in your computer. I want to give you a very good trick to be aware of for how to very quickly improve this. And it doesn't actually involve this app. It actually involves the mail program. So we're going to go back into email for a moment here, and I'm going to pull up a message. So pretend that Crate and Barrel here is an actual person, okay? Here's a really easy way to save that contact card into your computer. And what's great about this is if you're using iCloud, which hopefully you are, it's going to sync now these contacts between all your different devices. So see how it has the name Crate and Barrel up here, doesn't say the email address? If I click on that little arrow to the right of it, there's an option here to add to contacts. So just by doing that with one click, it's going to put it into your contacts application. If you're using iCloud, it's going to sync that across to other devices. It's a really, really good thing to do, especially if you have not been so good at doing that. Another trick I would like to give you, we might need to blur up part of the screen for this. I can't remember if we need to or not. When you're here under Mail, there's a little trick. We're going to go into Window, and we're going to go here into Previous Recipients. This is every person you have ever corresponded with, okay? So, I forgot this is a demo account. There is no one. So you will see a list of names and email addresses here, and there would be an icon on the very left-hand side. If you see that little icon that looks like a card, it means that person is already in your contacts. If there is not, you can click on it, and with one click down here, which would be at the bottom right, Add to Contacts, it will store that person's email address, again, into all of your stuff. It's a great thing to do. Again, just to kind of update, make sure your contacts are good across the board. There's another trick, though, I would like to go over here. For any of you who ever run into this problem where you misspell someone's email address and then it keeps popping up, this is where it lives. So let's say I meant to send a message to someone at iCloud.com, but I accidentally put iCloud.con, okay? I could go in here, click on the person's email address, hit remove from list, and it will stop referencing that bad email address. So I thought I would show you that little trick. Another thing I would like to show you here in Contacts, and we have classes on Contacts if you want to kind of go into it more, is I want to show you real quickly how to create a contact group, okay? So anytime you need to send an email to a bunch of people, this is a really great way to do it. We're going to go here into File, we're going to go to Create New Group, okay? We're going to call it whatever we want. I'm going to call it Book Club, okay? What I could then do is I can now drag different contacts into Book Club, and when I go in to create an email, instead of having to type out each person's email address individually, I can type book, it'll autofill Book Club, and then it'll just put in all of the email addresses right there. It's a really, really easy way to organize your contacts, especially if you, let's say, have to send emails to all of your family or all of your work friends, that kind of thing. Okay? Next thing we're going to talk about very, very quickly here is reminders. Reminders comes with the Mac. Of course, it's also on the iPhone and iPad. The key trick that I like to share with everyone about reminders, for those of you who have a spouse, okay, if you have a whole family, this is great for something like a shopping list because you can sync it. This is another great thing also for using Siri. So let's say I have created a list, add list down here. You can see I've already created it, called shopping. What you can do is you can create a shared shopping list so that I can say to Siri, for example, I'm going to do it through Siri right now. Add bread to my shopping list.
I've added it.
And you can see it just appeared right there. Now, if I want to get this to other people, what I can do is if I put my cursor here over where it says shopping, it might be a little hard for you to see, but to the right of that, we have a little, it looks like a bunch of little waves being shot out. If you click on that, you can share it with other people through email. So it's going to sync that list so that it goes to all of their phones. That way, when one person goes to the grocery store, they get what everyone needs. It's just a great little trick. I use it all the time. I think you all might like it too. That's a little bit about reminders. I love reminders. It's just such a handy little app, and that's a great one with Siri. Next one is Notes. Very quickly, we're going to talk about the new features in Notes, which is the ability to collaborate. So this isn't going to interest all of you, but if you, similar to Reminders, if you want to work with multiple people on a Notes, you'll now notice that there's a little human plus icon here at the top right. You can click on that, and now you can allow other people to collaborate with you on a note. And don't worry, if you move it to a different folder, they can still work on it. It's not going to affect it. So let's hit cancel there. But Notes is basically just an easy way to scribble any notes down. If you really like the Notes app, some people love this. Mark, I know, who does our editing, Mark loves Notes. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of Evernote, which is a free application you might want to check out. We also have a class on another one called Microsoft OneNote, which is very, very popular. So that's what we're going to talk about with Notes today. We're going to skip over that. I want to just mention that there are 3 apps that you can get for free for your Mac called Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. Those would be the Apple equivalents to Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. It's not for everyone. And what I will say is that if you're looking at this point in time, if you're looking to buy Microsoft Office, I recommend it if you are in a situation where you have to constantly collaborate with people on a PC. Pages, Numbers, and Keynote have gotten really, really great. I love them. But if you're in a business environment and everyone else is on a PC, you're going to be better off with the Microsoft Office suite. If you are looking for where to get it, we'll give you a link to where you can buy it online. You don't need a disk anymore. We're going to not really talk about iTunes. If you would like to learn about iTunes, we have some older classes on iTunes, but iTunes is at a point right now where it's just, I feel it's disconnected. And some people will disagree with me on that, but there have been some problems with iTunes. I still love it for certain things, like renting movies. It's great for that, more through Apple TV. But if you want to learn more about iTunes, there's some resources that we have out there. But I would hope that you'd check out or give a chance to another service out there called Spotify, which is free if you're doing it on a computer. If you want to do more than that, you kind of need the premium version. But I'm a big, big fan of Spotify, and I hope you'll check it out. There are 3 pieces of software that I'm going to give you all links to that I would strongly recommend that you consider downloading to your computer. The first one is the only the first 2 technically, are the only security software bits that I recommend that you get. And we're going to talk about something a little awkward right now. So there is a bunch of software that's out there. I'm not going to say their name, okay? There's one in particular. It is very, very heavily targeted towards Apple users. And they will try to very sneakily install their software on your computer. Now, those of you who have been fans of Tech Talk America for years know already what I'm about to say. 2 years ago, I was sued by one of them. because I called them out as being a scam. I stand by that opinion. And they sued me in state court in Louisiana, which is ridiculous for a YouTube video, and cost us $11,000 that year in legal fees. So they are clearly afraid that word is going to get out that they are a scam. So if you think you may have accidentally downloaded this software, the 2 pieces of software that I'm going to recommend to you will remove it. So I would recommend that you get it. And once again, anytime I give you software, please use the link that I give you. It's my way of keeping you all safe. So the first one is a really simple application called Malwarebytes. It is free, it is for the Mac, and here's the deal with Macs and viruses. Okay, in my entire career, I have encountered 3 viruses ever for a Mac. Now, there is something else that I encounter all the time, which is a pain in the butt. It's what I'm really describing right now, so subtly, but it's not going to actually harm your computer, technically speaking. Okay, this software will remove it. This is the only thing you need, so please don't email me, should I get this software? Just get this, and you're good. Malwarebytes, it's free, you install it, you click scan, it goes through everything in your computer. If it finds it, it removes it. It's really, really simple. We have a whole class on it, although it's frankly not that complicated. But it is the one security app that I think everyone should have. There is another one that's very similar. If you want, you can get it. It's not really necessary. But it's called DetectX. And that's more than anything useful for removing the pesky stuff that's out there. And what I'd like to do is, I wasn't going to do this, but I would like to go over 2 very common issues that Mac users tend to have, and I want to teach you all how to resolve it right now, because this is one of those things that you want to know how to address now, because if you don't know how to address it now, you could make a really, really bad mistake. Okay, so let's go over how the scam works so I can show you how to resolve it. There's a scam, it's referred to as adware, okay? And basically it's something that takes over your web browser. And the way they usually sucker you in is through one of 2 methods. They either have a graphic that looks like a window, like an alert window, and you click and it installs itself. It can actually 3 ways. It can be that you go to certain websites. It tends to be porn. How is this such a common topic today? You go to a porn site and suddenly it locks out your web browser and it says like, call this phone number and give us money or we're going to investigate you and you're going to go to jail and blah, blah, blah. Okay, don't freak out. Whatever you do not call that phone number. Okay, that can be another form of it. It can also just simply like take over your web browser. Okay, so with all of those, here's how you remove it. Okay, the way you remove what we're dealing with technically right now is a hijacked web browser. What you would do is this: you need to force quit your web browser if this ever happens to you. So Apple icon, force quit, or Command Option Escape. You'd see it running here, so let's just do Safari here. Hit force quit, that gets rid of it initially. There's one more critical step that you have to do. In some cases, there's one more. What you're going to do now is you're going to hold down the Shift key on your keyboard. Don't let go. And now you're going to open again whatever your web browser is, so Safari. That one trick will wipe out what was running in the background. If this ever happens to you, there's one other step you want to do just to make sure that everything is resolved. Go here into the preferences of whatever web browser you're using. Go into General, and see right here it says Homepage. Make sure it says what it should be. So if it should be Google, make sure it says google.com or whatever. But the other trick is that sometimes they will hijack your homepage. So you want to make sure that that is whatever it should be. Okay, that's that. That's a really common problem. A lot of people have it. And these scam artists, no one is talking about this stuff, and I don't know why. So that's how you resolve it. If you ever run into it, don't call the phone numbers. The other 2 pieces of software, just real quickly, I want to mention are Flash and VLC. Flash at this point, I'd say you may or may not want to consider installing because Flash has certain security holes, and also, frankly, it tends to wear down the battery on your Mac. So you might want to consider not installing Flash if you haven't already done it. The other one is VLC. By the way, if you do want Flash, we'll give you a link to it. VLC is a great piece of software for everyone. It's a very, very small piece of software. And basically all that it does is whenever you download a video file that QuickTime won't open, VLC will open it. Once again, we'll give you a link to where you can go to get that. Okay, so I want to end this video by going over a few very common questions that I tend to get from a lot of folks, okay? And so this is just going to be good for hopefully everyone out there. First question is, how long should my Mac last? Laptops never last as long as desktops, from what I've seen. There's always, of course, exceptions to the rule, but typically a laptop will last somewhere between 4 to 7 years if you treat it well. A desktop, you can expect anywhere from 7 even up to 10 years. Now, you may grow faster than that, in which case you might want to upgrade and move on to a new computer, but realistically, that's what you should probably expect out of a computer. 4 to 7 on a laptop, 7 to 10 on a desktop. So you are going to get better bang for your buck with a desktop. It's because it's not being subjected to being moved all the time. So that's my little piece on that. What do I do if I get liquid damage? Okay, so in the case of something like an iPhone or an iPad, what you want to do is you want to put it in a bag filled with either rice, or there's actually something better than rice. You know when you buy like anything and there's those little bags of silica gel, okay? What you might want to consider doing, I have this upstairs, is get like a mason jar and save those little packets, because those little silica balls are designed to suck out moisture. So that's actually better than rice. So if you ever drop your device in water, okay, just throw it in that bag or jar. It'll suck all the moisture out of it. Great trick. In the case of a computer, you know, electronics and water don't tend to really go together. There are services out there that repair liquid damage, but the key thing is if it is on, immediately turn it off. If it's off, don't turn it on, because again, liquid plus electricity equals bad times. See example of hairdryer plus bathtub. So if you spill liquid, just try to make sure there's no power going through that device. If there is, shut it down as fast as you can. I already mentioned if you have an iMac, the one key accessory I recommend that you check out is get that battery backup device. Also, of course, a backup hard drive. Backup hard drive is also great for laptops. Another great accessory for laptop owners, if you want to keep your Mac looking great, you can get a they're really not that expensive anymore. They make really great shells, and I'll give you links to a couple of my favorite ones. They're different for every model, so just make sure that you get the one for your model of computer. And then before we go, there's just 2 last little things that I wanted to go over real quickly. So the first one is, I want to just tell you a little bit, I'd like to just kind of have a personal moment with all of our fans. I've been doing this now for 4 years, and the reason why I do what I do is because I believe that YouTube can be an amazing delivery method for us to deliver education to people all over the globe. You know, you all found our videos for your own use. What some of you may not know is that our videos, as we have seen, are doing way more than just helping like folks learn how to better use their iPhones. I get letters from folks who are in other countries who can't go to public education. I get emails from women who are in countries where it's illegal for women to go to college. And we are teaching them how to build websites, how to start online businesses, how to do these different skills. And for me, teaching is a passion. To be able to change someone's life who I've never even met, for me is a giant, giant honor. There is one very, very simple thing that all of you out there can do to help allow us to continue to do this. Because when 98% of our classes are free, it's really hard for us to make money and be able to do what we do, because we still have to eat, we still have to live, right? We have families we have to support. Not so much me, I have 2 birds, that's about it, but Mark does. Sorry about that. So the trick that I wanted to just ask all of you, if you wouldn't mind taking 2 seconds of your time, I'd like to show you how to make it so that when you shop on Amazon, it can help support what we do here at Tech Talk America. So it's really simple. If you would take 2 seconds and go to our website at techtalkamerica.com, you will notice that we have this page called Support TTA. Click on that link, And the second item down here describes to you exactly what to do next. So you can see here all the countries that we have relationships with Amazon in. So we have relationships with Amazon in the US, in Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and the UK. This also includes if, like, let's say you're in Scotland, your Amazon purchases come from the UK. So it's not about where you live, it's about where your purchases come from. What we are asking you to consider doing is click on the link that corresponds to you. I'll click on USA right now. It'll go to Amazon, and we are asking you to bookmark that link instead of going to Amazon manually. So the easy way to bookmark is Command D as in David. So Command D, very simple, and I can save it to my favorites, okay? So now I can go into bookmarks here, go to favorites, and Amazon's right there. What you are basically doing in doing this, we're part of a program called Amazon Associates. And it's a way that organizations like us can recommend products to people and get a commission. That's all we're doing. If you use that link, we're getting a small commission from what you buy. You're not paying any more. You're not paying any more shipping. It doesn't affect you if you're on Prime. It doesn't do anything if it doesn't change anything if you use Amazon Smile. It's the exact same thing. It's one simple step. If enough people do that, it allows us to keep offering as many classes as we're able to offer for free. This class obviously is a bit of an exception to the rule because we put so much time into creating this for all of you, and I think it does. I think we're absolutely worth what we charge for it. But if you wouldn't mind taking 2 seconds to do that, we really do appreciate it. So finally, I just want to end this class with saying thank you to everyone at home, all of you who have told your friends about Tech Talk America and what we're trying to do here. It's a real honor for me to get to do this stuff. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this class. Check out that PDF. We have just tons and tons of links and helpful information for all of you. And thank you for allowing me to do this job. This is David A. Cox with Tech Talk America. Class dismissed.